This is how you automatically assign your thread colors to a specific needle on a Janome Mb4. So I like to reserve needle number 1 to gold thread, and I like to reserve needle number 4 to black. And I'll show you how I set that and then how I make sure my design uses that function. So first I'll show you how to set it. So you'll go into your settings. So set right here. Let me try to get rid of that glare. Set. And we're on set 1. We're going to page over. To set 5. Now I have Janome chosen as my thread selection because I'm on a Janome Mb4 and I like that it shows the words. But if you wanted to change it to a different thread catalog, you can use these arrows here, these 2 buttons here, to arrow down, and then you would hit OK and it would be Gutterman and so on. But I like mine to be Janome, and so I don't need to hit OK because it was already set. If I hit OK, I'm going to go out of this. See, I'll go back to menu. I'll go back to the main screen, so I have to go back in. It's good that I did that just to make sure. So it's on Janome, and I'll go to the next page. Set 6, reserve color to needle. So we want this arrow to be down here, so we use these arrows here. Now it's on, reserve color to needle, and hit yes. And it takes us to this screen. So you can see that I have needle number 1 reserved to gold. I already did that. It's always like that for me. And not always. It's because I'm working on a specific quilt and hoop project where I'm using gold thread. So if I were using a different color, I might change that. So if my next quilt and hoop project is using, say, this color here, I just arrow over. You could see it's selected on gold right now, but I arrow over to the left. Okay, so that's blue, brown, red. So say my design, my quilt and the hoop project is I want to use red thread, I would leave it on red then. Because I have needle number 1 set up in a way where my quilt and the hoop has good tension. I actually have the pre-tensioner really cranked up, and I have 2 springs in it. I have it wrapped 1.5 times, my pre-tensioner, and then I have my tension dial set all the way up to 9. So I use needle number 1 for quilt and the hoop. So, but I'm going to change it back to the gold, but that's how you'd set it to a different color, and then you'd hit OK, so it would hold that color. And so mine is set for gold. And if you wanted to go and set, say, needle number 2, say you have a design with 10 different colors in it, and you want to set needle number 2 to a color that's used over and over in the design, well, you'd go down to needle number 2 by using these circle buttons because they correspond to the needle. Now, if you have a different software, I think the Janome Mb7, they may not show your needles. You may have like a plus or minus where you have to go through your needles with a plus or minus. Just keep that in mind. Mine's a Janome Mb4, so I still have these icons showing. But at any rate, for me to get down to needle number 2, I just hit this. So say I wanted needle number 2 to be this light blue, because it's used in my design a lot. Well, that looks like it's light blue. So right now I'm down here. I think you need to have at least one of them showing this minus or hyphen or whatever you call it sign, because this one says any when you hover on it. So that I haven't experimented with it. But at any rate, say I want needle number 2 to be blue. Right now it's here, so I have to arrow up. And now I'll arrow over baby blue. And then needle number 3, we have to leave like this. And I'll show you. If I go to needle number 3, and it's here, if I go up to any, if I go to any and hit OK, it gives me an error warning. See? It won't take that. It has to be a minus. Okay, so that what this means now is that the machine is going to use needle number 3 when it has a color other than one of these 3. And I like to keep black for needle number 4. You know, it's already on there. I already assigned that from before. So now, since I kind of changed this, I made baby blue be reserved to needle number 2. I'll hit OK. And then I'll just hit OK. And I'll open up a design that has a lot of colors in it. I don't think it has baby blue in it, though. I'm thinking that it might be better if your software also uses Janome thread catalogs. I use Mb4 embroidery software, and I do have it set to use the Janome thread catalog. So that may help with it recognizing the baby blue as a Janome baby blue on here, since I have the Janome thread catalog selected on here as well. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to open up a design, like I said, with a lot of colors in it. Okay. So here's the design, or here's all my thread colors. I have 5 colors, but really that should say 5 objects, because I really only have 4 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is repeated. So that's misleading, just so you know. But you can see what the machine did. My first color is bright green, and if you want to see which color is highlighted, click this. Okay, bright green is my first color, but this machine assigned it to needle number 1, but the machine is being kind to us because it's saying, hey lady, I thought you wanted gold to be needle number 1. Just so you know, we didn't do that. We assigned green on needle number 1. And down here for black, for needle number 2, black. The machine is telling us, okay, well, you know, we automatically assigned this black to needle number 2 because that's what we do. We just go in succession. But you reserved needle number 2 to use this baby blue. So we're just telling you, you know, that's what you wanted, but that's not what we did. So to get around that, we go into this arrow key here. These are our needle assignment choices. We can either manually assign each of these colors to the needle we want, or we can let the machine automatically assign the thread colors according to where we reserved them. And so I'll hit this and you'll watch these will change. This black right here will use needle number 4 like we told it to in the settings. And this one will change too. This bright green is not going to go to needle number 1 now, because we told the machine we wanted needle number 1 to be reserved for gold. So this bright green is going to go to a different needle. It'll probably go to needle number 3 because that's the only one that's not assigned. So let's see. Okay, so there you go. So color number 1 now is going to stitch using needle number 3 because that was the only one that had that hyphen. And then the second object, color number 2, which is black, is going to stitch on 4, which, you know, that's the one we told it to reserve for black. And then you'll notice this black has a red stop on it. That means the machine is going to stop after it stitches this color. Well, why, you say? Why would it stop? Well, because it knows the next color has to go on needle number 3, because that's the only needle we left open. And you had a different color on needle number 3. So the machine is smart and it knows it has to stop so that you change needle number 3 to be violet blue up here. You know, put violet blue on your stand for needle number 3. So, and then when it gets done with needle number 3, it stops because it's got to stitch this color crimson, and, you know, like I said, needle number 3 is the only one we have open. So our poor machine has not many choices with this design. Now, I should have looked at my colors and before I pulled up this design, and I should have set one of the colors to say crimson, you know, and so I could do that. So I could have set one of them to be bright green. But since violet blue is being stitched twice, maybe I'll set one of them to violet blue. You know. So let's see. Let's go into the settings. I don't know where violet blue is on that screen. Reserve color to needle. Yes. So instead of baby blue, well, needle number 2, I don't have to worry about changing my black choice. I could leave it at 4. It'll work. But maybe I'll put, instead of baby blue for needle number 2, let's go to needle number 2. Maybe I'll try to find violet blue. I don't know where it is. Right now, we're right here. Let's go over. Powder blue. Blue. I wonder if I could set it for any, or I could just leave it down here. and it'll automatically assign it. Yeah, I don't know where that blue is. I wish they had it as names. That's sepia, sienna, violet blue. So there's violet blue. And I guess you'll get used to this. So if I set that for violet blue, or I could have just set it down here for the negative sign. Too bad I can't see this as type, you know, because it is kind of hard to read this. I guess you can make your screen contrast a little bit lighter. Mine's kind of dark. So I'll just say okay and okay. And now nothing has changed because I have to hit this again. So now you'll see it changed drastically. So needle number 3 is the only one that's not assigned. So color number 1 was given to needle number 3. Color number 2 was given to needle number 4, like we wanted, because we assigned needle number 4 to be black. And color number 3, violet blue, remember we assigned that to needle number 2, and they are telling us that we did that, just like up here. But it's going to stop after needle number 2. And that's because our next object or color is red, and we have to change needle number 3 to have a red thread spool on it. You know, because currently it's got the bright green on it. And then it'll go ahead and just continue on without stopping to stitch the last color because, you know, we assigned it to violet blue. Now, if we would have assigned violet or needle number 2 to that negative, then this probably wouldn't have changed. So let's go see. Let's go into set. Reserve colored in needle. Yes. So let's go to needle number 2 and give it this negative. You can try the any, this one, but I don't know. Sometimes I think that I have to investigate that more. So now it's on the negative, meaning it's unassigned, I guess. And any could mean any. I don't know. We'll try both. We'll leave it here for right now and hit OK. You can see nothing's going to change until we hit this again, but violet is on needle number 2. Let's see if that changes when we hit auto assign. Oh, it gave it to needle number 3. So that's interesting. So that's because, I think it's because our machine likes to go in order. So it made color number 1 have needle number 2. Since we took it off of violet blue, it's like, okay, the machine will go through. Well, it goes backwards. It'll say, okay, needle number 1, is that assigned? Yes. Needle number 2, is that assigned? No. So we're going to give this first one needle number 2. So it did change. Let's try and give it any. See what happens. So we're going to go into set. I'm getting confused. So let's go to needle number 2 now. And let's give it this any up here. I'm just curious. I wish you could go backwards in the rows or columns, but you can't. Okay, now it's got any on it, which is interesting. So we'll hit OK. OK. And nothing changes until we hit assign. So let's see what happens with needle number 2. Right now it's got this going on. Violet is stitching needle number 3. So it changed. So interesting. It's not even using needle number 2. So that color called any, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the DST files, or maybe it is something in your embroidery software. Maybe Janome Digitizer was originally allowed you to choose any for color. I'm not sure, but it didn't use it. So in that case, let's go back into settings and make it that minus sign, which I think means unassigned. Reserve color, needle number 2. We want it to be this. See, if I try to go backwards and use this, it doesn't go. So you got to waste time and go all the way. That's kind of a bummer, but oh well. So now it's on the negative. So now we'll hit OK. OK. And remember, you do have to hit OK a lot when you want to save something or sign something. Otherwise, it doesn't take. So just so you know. So now nothing has changed yet when we hit assign automatically. Now 2 is any, and black is 4. 3 is violet blue. We have to stop after it because we got to give needle number 2 red thread because it was green. And then 3 is going to stitch again. Needle number 3 is going to stitch again. So if your design has like a lot of your objects use the same color, then assign that color to a specific needle. That'll help you out. You don't really have to babysit your machine because it looks like it'll stop for you and let you change thread colors for the ones that are unassigned. So I hope that was helpful. I know it's a little daunting at first, slightly archaic, but just because the settings screen has those color blocks instead of the wording. But I have a Brother SC600 that if you look at your file names, you don't even see the names of your files when you're pulling up a PES design. But if you pull up a DST, all of a sudden you see the typewritten name of the file to open it. So Janome's isn't that bad, but there are some things that I do wish they would update, like when we pull up a design and we want to move it with these arrow buttons. I wish it would show you on the screen how many millimeters you moved left or right. Really wish that would be on here. And other things, but I'm happy with it otherwise. There is one thing that I did want to point out on this assignment screen. If you look at all these thread spool colors, and if you count them, there's 80 choices, including this minus and including this any up here. There's 80. But on my embroidery software, Embird, when I choose the Janome catalog as my catalog of choice, I counted all the colors in that Janome catalog, and there were 78 colors, which means these colors here are 80 minus these 2 equals 78. So these color spools match the exact number of color spools in the Janome catalog in my software. So it must be that Janome has kept the same catalog for years and years and years, and there's about 78 colors, or in my case, exactly 78 to choose from. So with that said, what I found interesting is if I go out of this screen and choose a different catalog on this machine, these spools do not change. You'll see that color will still be in that corner. You know, the white will still be right there. The black will be up here as second. The colors don't change. The spool layout here, there's still 80 counting these two, but 78 for the interior. But when you use a different catalog, this isn't called gold anymore. It's called gold in Janome, but it's called a different color in, say, let's go and see. Let me say okay. Let me go back to set 5. Let me get my pointer. If I went to, say, Robeson Anton Poly 4, polyester 40, okay, and hit OK, and let's go back into that assignment screen. So Roby Anton is selected. Reserve color to needle. Let's go down. Yes. Now look, it says penny. It doesn't say gold anymore. The black still says black, but look, that color is still where it was before. Here's the white down here. The black is in the second slot. There's still 80 minus 2. There's still 78 choices of color. It's just a different catalog. So if you choose a catalog in your embroidery software that's not Janome, you know, your other catalog, say your Robeson Anton, I know they have way more than 80 colors, right? So if you have a color, a Roby Anton color, like this one, this is a Roby Anton Poly Carolina Red, and that's in your design, then Janome's just going to give it the closest color on here. It'll just assign it to whatever's closest to this color. And I can experiment with that and choose Carolina Red and see what it shows up as when I pull up my design. So I've loaded a design on my USB, this same butterfly design, but I've changed the first color to this Carolina Red in my software. And, you know, I used the Robeson Anton catalog in my software as well. So let's see how that changes when I open up the design. So we'll go to Open. And I put it under Roby Anton, so I'm going to go backwards. Okay, let's see. Carolina Red, aptly butterfly. Okay, so this is interesting. You could see just from the Ready to Sew screen that my Janome said that this Carolina Red is closest to the Robeson Anton color called Espresso. Because remember, Janome's only holding 80 slots. So any colors that are similar to this, maybe lighter, darker, different values or whatever, are all lumped into the color Espresso. And again, if I want to show this color, I click this button and there's the first color. So that's interesting because in my Amber software, this shows as such a dark red that it's showing as espresso. Interesting. It's using these other colors. These are Roby Anton colors. And, oops, I gotta change my battery. 1 sec. And you can see that we still have to hit our auto assignment button because it's letting this espresso stitch on needle number 1, which we have reserved to gold. So we still have to go into here and click the auto assign. And now it's stitching correctly. It reassigned everything. And if we go into that auto assignment screen, let's just see where espresso is. So let's just go into it and see where espresso is. Maybe you could take a screenshot of, let me first go into it. You could take a screenshot with your camera, you know, with your cell phone. And see, I'm on Roby Anton Poly 40. And reserve color. Okay, so I don't know which one is espresso because remember, I've only got these 2 saved. So what I'm saying is maybe you can take a picture of this with your cell phone and then kind of maybe blow it up or something, and then write in here all of the colors for your particular catalog. So then you know where to go to if you want to assign them. If you wanted to, you could just let the machine auto assign. I mean, you know, you would just hit auto assign and let it do its thing. But I do wonder, let's go to just to needle number 2. Even though the espresso was on needle number 1, we're going to just go to needle number 2 and see where espresso is on here. I mean, espresso is like a chocolate brown. So that's maroon. Let's see. Olive drab. And see, you'd want to be writing all this down so you don't have to rifle through it all the time. So there's espresso. So there's espresso. So these are all Robeson Anton colors, visor gold. This gold up here is called penny. The black, of course, is still called black. So just know that I'm going to go back to the negative sign. And I'll hit OK. And if I go back and, sorry, I hit the wrong one. If I go back and want to go back to the Janome colors, which I'm more familiar with since I'm always using them, and hit OK, now everything changed. Dark sepia. I think dark sepia was in that location. This gets confusing. That's why I just stick with Janome. Yes. Okay, I'm up here. Let me just go down. Oops. Yeah, I think it was in the same position as when it was Roby Anton down here. I don't think it was this one. So that's very interesting. So I'm going back to gold because I'm still quilting in the hoop with that color. Okay, and then I have Janome saved. So Sorry to make this, you know, so divergent, but now it's saying dark sepia because I'm on Janome colors now. And remember, I changed this from the green to this Carolina red. So my Carolina red, Roby Anton, is reading dark sepia in Janome and espresso when I use a Roby Anton catalog. So go figure, and they're both in the same location on that screen. So, oh dear. But what I was saying before is, even if you don't have thread colors assigned, you can click on this auto assign. It auto assigns them anyways, but it's not going to auto assign them to the ones that you already have loaded. So if you have colors already loaded, then you probably do want to go into that assignment screen and assign the colors you have loaded to specific specific needles, and then come in here and hit this auto assign. It'll probably save you some work, I would think. So, okay. If you have any questions whatsoever on this, I will always help anybody. Just contact me at Lisa Wee Quilt on Facebook. So, all right then. Thanks a lot.